So I had a question about, you know, I said about like I pair up my birds in small cages and then release them to my main loft. What kind of cages that I use? So here's an example of the cages that I use. Like perfect example is these guys just got paired up a few days ago. A pair of Birmingham Ballas rollers. I raised these both last year. So I mean, if you look at the color, there's some sunlight hitting it too. I don't know if you can, maybe there's a glare from sunlight, but it might be a better angle. They're both are brown-based birds. The cockbird is a brown Ballas. If you look at the hen, she's a little bit more lighter in color. She's a dilute of brown. We call it khaki. And if you look at the beaks, the cockbird has a stained beak. It's a darker color. And if you look at the female, she has a clean beak. So it's a dilute of brown, khaki, and brown. They both are James Turner bloodlines. All my Ballas are James Turner. So I use these cages to pair up birds. They're like 2 foot long, 2 foot wide, 2 foot tall. And I give them nest boxes because when they're in the process of mating up, you give a nest box, it just triggers them and they mate up fast and they want to lay eggs and, you know, get into that parenting mode. But I don't try to leave the nest box too long in there because if I do that, they might even lay eggs. Then, you know, they lay eggs, then they're gonna sit in here and raise the babies, which is, there's nothing wrong with it. I've done that with rollers many times, but I prefer them enjoying getting out, flying around, and you know, that process. But I have bred, I think, homers in these rollers and mookies in here in these small cages. But I don't try to do like, definitely have never done powders. That's not enough room for powders to breed in here. I wouldn't do Indian fantails either. No, it's too small. I wouldn't recommend. So here's a pair of dewlaps. That's an older cockbird. They're both are full dewlaps. He has a black tail with the black earrings too. The hen is last year's bird, and she's a solid white with the frills on her. So trying to mate them up, but they don't seem to be in the mood to mate up. The next pair we have is a pair of homers. We got a Andalusian cockbird. There's an Andalusian cockbird over there with the indigo hen. She's ready to mate. He was already mated to a Deroy hen, and I didn't, you know, definitely I don't want that mating, so I put this indigo hen in here. But she's ready. I can make noise and she might dance. Ooh, 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 ooh. Look, she's getting excited. Ooh, 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 ooh. And she is Trenton. That's a bloodline, and he's one of my colored homers. But you know, indigo and Andalusian. Ooh. And they should throw me some nice Andalusians and indigos, and sometimes some homozygous Andalusians too. You guys seen the video I did with the indigo Andalusian and homozygous, so that will be a really good combination. And I like the structure. I really like the shape of the head on the hen, everything about her, so it's something new. Then at last we have a pair of Hannah powders. And this was you guys can see this cockbird was at late hatch from last year. He's just starting to blow up, and you know, he's not trimmed to tails and flights and all that, slowly growing back, but he was showing some signs of, you know, blowing up. I thought maybe he would mate up with her. That's my last pair of Hannah powders, so I'm hoping to raise some good amount of birds out of them, and because he carries dilute too, and they both, she carries a spangle gene. He has spangles on him, so I could raise yellow spangles, yellows, red spangles, and reds out of the mating. So that is something I'm looking forward for that. Maybe raising enough to have 3 or 4 pairs for next year. I mean, I used a lot of handlers and I got out of the breed, and at one hen left that I made it. I bought a cockboard, I made it up, and then I raised a few. Then I thought about getting out of them again, and I had one hen left, and there was a baby, and it has to be a cockboard. But I think that's just saying that I might need to keep a few pairs. I like them too. So, but as far as the cage, you know, it sits on the back of one of my kid boxes, and you can see on the bottom I have like another layer. The problem is that the reason why I have another layer underneath is because if I don't have anything to block the bottom, one time raccoons climbed on it and they pulled the legs through the wire. So I lost a few birds like that, so I had to build up something so that they couldn't get there. The bad problem with that is that all the poop and feed, and that's another problem with these kind of boxes. They waste a lot of feed, which I hate. They get stuck over here on the bottom. Soon the bottom might give up on me, so that's another thing I might need to work on. But yeah, these are yeah, she's ready. She's slowly dancing, so hopefully within a few days they will pair up. And it is a little bit cold and in the mornings over here, but it warms up in the evening. Like my hands are already starting to freeze up a little bit, but these guys already made it up. I'm going to most likely release them tomorrow into the loft and put another pair of rollers in there to get mated up. But this is what I use for individual mating up. And the reason I put these things on the side over here, like sometimes wind hits, to block the wind, and also will block them from seeing other birds, and you know, yeah, that distraction of other birds seeing. So I put on both sides like a feed sack to cover up, and just to block the view so that they can concentrate on getting mated up. But this is what I use for individual breeding, individual mating up, no breeding, just mating of birds. And also I use this same thing whenever I get new birds for quarantine. I put them over here. They'll sit over here for a few weeks. If I get any sick birds, I isolate them over here too. So this is a really nice setup. But yeah, those guys are paired up. I think there's only pair that paired up is these rollers in here, because they've been the longest time in here too. I put these guys, all these guys yesterday. So you have to give them like 3 or 4 days. Rollers get mated up very fast. Homos does the same too. The rest of the breeds is they take maybe a week or 2, but rollers within a few days they get mated up. So that pair is ready to go. I'm gonna release them tomorrow and put another pair of rollers in there. I hope these homers get mated up in soon, then I can release them too. Then these guys, I don't know, and the Hannah powder, depending upon how much active the cockbird is, it depends on him. So he was blowing up in the loft, and I thought he might be ready, but maybe he's still. I think he's a December hash bird. So yeah, let's see how you want to do it. It's a nice tall bird, and he blows a pretty decent globe too. So, and she's real nice. But she has a nice chance. She's a nice tall bird too. Because when you try to do too much, they might get freaked out. But that's it. I hope this was knowledgeable. That way you guys get an idea and maybe use it for your own purposes or get some techniques. These guys are official. Yeah, I hope you can see the difference in colors between these two. I know there's a lot of sunlight hitting from there, but she's a little bit more lighter in color. It's like a creamish color on her, and he's kind of brownish. And if you look at just look at the color on the head. That is a perfect example. He has a brownish color, and she was like a real light color. And that's the same thing I had in that pair of Mookies that got mated up the other day. I released. The hen was a khaki, dilute brown, and the cock is an almond. So, and if you look, she has a clean beak and he has a stained beak. So, anyway, that's it, guys. Have a good one.